My husband was an artist. One day he and I went on vacation abroad, and there, sightseeing, we found ourselves in an ancient cemetery. My husband liked the majestic monuments depicting mourning angels. When we returned home, it occurred to him that he should make a tombstone for himself in advance. I started to talk him out of it, saying it was stupid, but he took offense and said,
"What's stupid about it? I just want to know in advance what kind of monument will stand on my grave."
And I stopped arguing with him. Encouraged, he drew sketches of the monument and immediately showed them to me, waiting for approval. For some reason, I couldn't even look at them. I felt very creepy. After many attempts, my husband finally achieved the desired result. The drawing showed a man who looked very much like my husband. He was sitting on a chair, leaning back slightly, and his posture was tired. He was holding on to the back of the chair with one hand and holding a palette and brush in the other. I tried again to dissuade my husband, convincing him that he would probably live for decades to come. And all that time the monument will be in the workshop. That's ridiculous. If he were sick or old, I could understand it. But it's just nonsense. Besides, marble or granite for a monument is very expensive. But it was hard to convince my husband. If he had already made up his mind, it was useless to dissuade him. Now he devoted all his free time to the monument. I didn't like what was happening. I hadn't been in his workshop since the day he started working, and I felt sorry for the money spent. Months passed, and one day my husband said,
"Come on, I'll show you my tombstone,"
and laughed. I didn't like his laughter. I sensed some insincerity and even fear in it. The monument amazed me. I always knew my husband was very talented. But what I saw was beyond description. It looked like he was sitting in a chair. You've probably seen people covered in silver or bronze. This monument made the same impression on me. It was as if a living person had been dressed up and seated on a chair in the middle of the workshop. Everything looked so real. The veins in his arms, the wrinkles on his face, the crumpled sleeve of his shirt and the buttons on it. Then, without knowing why, I cried, and my husband started to comfort me.
"Why are you crying? I'm alive and I'm not going to die yet."
But I already felt the approach of trouble. Unable to bear it any longer, I ran to the monument and covered it with a blanket. My husband didn't mind. I woke up suddenly in the night. My husband was asleep, his breathing was even. It was quiet, but something made me wake up. Suddenly I thought there was something rustling in the apartment. I got up and walked down the hallway to the kitchen, thinking it was our hungry cat making noise. As I approached the workshop, I noticed a faint light shining through from under the door. Didn't turn off the light again, I thought, and opened the door. The monument stood without a cover. The light of the lamp distorted the features of the familiar face so much that instead of a thoughtful expression, a predatory grin appeared on it, as if the monument were laughing at me. I was frightened and did not remember how I lost consciousness. This had never happened to me before. I woke up to my husband splashing cold water in my face. I was lying on the floor and the monument was covered with the blanket again. "Why did you take the blanket off?" I asked my husband. At first he didn't even realize what I was asking, and then he said he hadn't taken it off. Then he asked why I had gone to the workshop. I said I wanted to turn off the light.
"What light?" When I got there, the workshop was dark. I heard a rumble, jumped out of bed and ran to the sound. You were lying on the floor and the light was off.
I could have sworn the monument was open, and a wicked smile was frozen on its marble face. and the lights were on in the workshop. How else would I have been able to see all that? And I wouldn't have gone into the workshop if it was dark. In the morning I said to my husband, "Take the monument wherever you want. You can put it in the shed at the dacha, but I don't want to see it in the house." We were rarely at the cottage. I am not a fan of messing around with flowers in beds, and my husband always has no time. So the monument, along with the blanket, moved to the shed. A month later, my husband left on a business trip, promising to return in a week at the latest. I spent the first 3 days cleaning the house. Then I went to the dressmaker. The dressmaker said I looked bad and advised me to see a beautician. I remember I didn't sleep well that night. I dreamed about my husband's late uncle. I saw him walking towards me in an old black suit. He had a hat on his head and a cane in his hands. He had overshoes on his feet. He opens a beautiful gift box, and in it is a stone jaw, but one tooth of the jaw is gold. My husband's uncle was a dentist and made very good money in his day. The tooth was so shiny it was painful to look at. I asked, "Why is the jaw stone, since it will be hard to wear?" "I don't think my husband needs a denture like that." "When did he order it?" And then the guest in black spoke in my husband's voice.
He ordered it on June 24, 1999, at 7 o'clock in the evening, and it was ready yesterday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
At that moment, I woke up. I felt as if my uncle had just given me a terrible message. Shivering with fear, I ran around the apartment, turning on all the lamps. Then I rushed into the workshop and, rummaging through all the drawers, found my husband's diary, in which he had made notes on the progress of the work. As I frantically flipped through the pages, my hand shook so badly that I almost dropped the diary several times. Finally, I found the right page, where the date on which the work on the monument was to begin was written. The same date was told to me in a dream by a deceased relative. June 24, 1999, 7 o'clock in the evening. In the afternoon I received a call from the police. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon my husband died in a car accident. When we arrived at the dacha to pick up the monument, there was no blanket on it. It was lying on the floor. But I personally saw how my husband had secured it with a clothesline. Outsiders could not enter the shed as it was locked, and the lock was intact. I also noticed that the monument had one tooth turned gold. Now I try not to think about what really killed my husband. I'm afraid of going crazy.